think I did become very comfortable with being alone.
Mm-hmm.
I lived alone. I had the cats, but like I became very comfortable and it felt safer because it's not only the fact of like health issues, but it's just like people can feel unsafe sometimes. And so I think I think that was also probably accompanied with the fact of like, that was during the time of the end of my like toxic relationship. And so I think that accompanied all together. I was like, okay, I feel safer by myself. Nobody's going to hurt me. I can't like, I'm not wording this correctly, but it felt safer just beyond health issues.
Yeah. No, I think you're wording it perfectly. I think you're feeling like you're not exposing yourself to danger as much anymore, whether that be like physical, emotional, mental, with other people.
Yeah, totally.
And that's so fair. Holy shit. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Femme Tell All podcast. My name is Madison Bellissimo.
And I'm Ruth Devereaux.
And we're so happy you're here.
Always so happy.
We can't contain our excitement.
Every day.
I love it. And today we're talking about a not so exciting topic.
Yeah.
It's more sad than not exciting.
It's disappointing that this is where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think not so much disappointing about people, but it's just sad that this is what we've learned to do and how we've coped over the years, especially since the pandemic.
Absolutely. So today we're covering learned loneliness. We saw a video. It originally came from a TikTok, but it is from an
so
article.
Much information that starts.
TikTok. It's from an
Don't take
article.
away our education, government.
Truly. Another episode on that later. But the article is from The Atlantic, and it's entitled How We Learned to Be Lonely.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of covering, it did come out last year in 2023, but it is covering how since the pandemic, we've really adjusted our lifestyle.
And it had a lot of interesting stats that we want to share before we get into the conversation of it all. But starting off, 60% of people have not returned to pre-pandemic activities.
Ugh.
And it's been years. And more than half of people are still saying they're not back to where they were before.
Yeah.
Remote work has tripled, therefore putting more of us in our home the majority of the time alone. 35% say socializing is less important to them now.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I want to like say all of them, and then I want to go back to each and every one.
60% also say it's harder to form relationships after the pandemic.
Yeah.
We can co-sign that.
Yeah.
Then also in 2013, the average hours spent with friends was 6, and now it's 2. So huge drop there.
Wow. A third of the time.
Huh?
A third of the time.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Crazy.
And then the highest stress is finances, which also is in opposition to actually wanting to go out and spend money. The people in their 30s and 40s actually have the least leisure time. But there is also a direct line of social health with longevity.
Yeah.
So we're going against what has been proven to elongate our lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And quality of life, too.
Absolutely.
They talk about community being such a huge thing.
Yeah.
And now we're turning a blind eye to it. We're almost like, I mean, when we talked about originally covering this subject, the thing that kept, it's sad, but it's funny in hindsight as far as like we were told we would be not only killing ourselves, we would be harming our friends, our family, putting everyone in danger if we saw people. Yeah.
Or even
if we went outside, and it's a trauma response. I think a lot of us now, even in 2024, are still like, I mean, I don't know about you. I think I have second guesses when I go into crowded rooms, when I go to concerts and things like that. I'm like, and that's one of my favorite activities. I love seeing live music. You know that. Most people that know me know that. I go to concerts as much as I can. And that was something I was so craving to go back to after the pandemic. And I still do. It doesn't prevent me, but it definitely makes me second guess. It makes me go, is seeing Del Water Gap worth it? I would love to see Del Water Gap, by the way. Putting out the good feels because I'd love to see him in concert. But I'm like, is it worth it of like potentially getting my family sick, getting me sick? And also I feel like do you ever get the worry of like, you know, the cruise lines and all that stuff where you're like, am I putting myself in the nucleus of like what the next pandemic could be? Do you ever have that feeling?
No, but now I will when I go on my cruise. Thank you for that.
I'm so sorry. I was going to say that's awesome that you don't have that fear. I have that fear a lot where I go like, am I in the starting stage? Like, am I being presented to the starting stage of what could be the next pandemic?
See, my fear would more so being the outcome of like if you get stuck on that boat and what you've seen like during the beginning of the pandemic, so much of that happened and being like, stuck out at sea, that is the start of a horror film.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say hard pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't think I struggle with so much of like the fear of getting the people around me sick as much as the motivation anymore. Like I definitely don't feel as motivated to go out. I feel like I have to have something I really want to do to actually exit my home. And then also just the extra work that goes into going out, especially as a woman. Like you have to get fully done up if you're going out. Whereas at home, I don't have to do that.
I am barely showered. No, I'm kidding.
I'm not kidding.
But yeah, I think it's interesting because the hesitancy or the motivation, I think that's such a really relatable, hopefully. I think a lot of people, and even watching that TikTok, the girl's like, I know you're nodding at home and being like, yeah, this is totally, wow, I feel so seen. I feel so heard. We need to make changes. And like, I have to say, Vero was just on our last episode. That friend, we love Vero. That friend group, that shit has gotten me out of the house way more than I probably would have been. Awesome. And I'm so thankful for it. But like, it's because those people, and the majority are women, but all different people are in these group chats being like, hey, I'm going to this workout class. Hey, do you guys want to do a picnic here? Do you want to do this? And that sense of community, it does give me almost a peer pressure where I'm like,
but in like the best way.
In the best way. It's not a FOMO necessarily, because I feel like that's something we could get into as well. Totally. But I'm always so thankful for it because they're like, hey, let's do this. Hey, I saw this event going on. And then I feel like I want to participate in the conversation and add my 2 cents too, like add events that I could go to that I could bring people to.
And that encourages you, I'm sure, to even look up different things that maybe you wouldn't have before.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
But honestly, before I was in that friend group, I still have so many friends that I'm so thankful for. And we would go out or we would watch Sex in the City at home, you know. And
we do girl dates.
I am not ever going to say that we should change an ounce of that. I love every minute of our girl dates. But I will say when you get comfortable with certain friends, sometimes
you tend to go out less.
You go like, oh, well, we don't, you know, or like say, even us, for example, like I know you would be my wing woman in a heartbeat.
I would love that.
Because
can we do that?
Okay, maybe what I'm about to say is not correct. But I was going to say, because you're in a relationship, you're less inclined to go to a club, maybe.
Sure, a club for sure. Like but I also think I've aged
not that
out
I want to.
I also don't think you would want to do that.
That's why I'm like, she's such a poser, guys. But I'm saying more like, we wouldn't be like, let's get out. It's Friday night. Let's go out on the town. Where we would, maybe if we were both single, it'd be like, hey, let's go try and meet some guys.
I think when we both were single, we definitely, I still don't think we still didn't ever go on the hunt for anything. No. We would go to dinner.
We would go to dinner and act like we would be like all in our conversation, but dare anyone to interrupt us. We're like, why are you sending us a drink right now? Don't send us a drink.
I mean, we'll accept it.
But like, we're not going to talk to you. It's interesting that just to have that kind of reflection, because I think that even closed off is from post-pandemic too.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like we used to be, and we're very open, I would say, for the most part. But I think we used to go and do more like, I don't know. Like, we didn't have too fruitful of a relationship before the pandemic.
That is also true. I think we got closer through the pandemic.
Which
is great. Like, thank you, pandemic.
Yeah. But even think about it, the project we were working on, we met in person for almost all of our meetings before the pandemic. Yeah. We would get a group of 5 people together, 4 people together. True. 3 times a week, twice a week.
Well, that's, I think the thing too, like even those meetings, like after the pandemic, so much of it was acceptable to just do on Zoom, which it has been a blessing. Like I have people that I work with that live in New York that I've never met in person, and we've only met on Zoom, and like, but we've created relationship through that. So I think that there's a greatness to that where I've been able to connect with people that I wouldn't have in the past because that never seemed like an option. I'd never thought of that as an option. Whereas now it is, but then also the negative to that is then even people that are local
live 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'll do a Zoom meeting with as opposed to leaving my home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my follow-up question would be, do you feel like you've gained any loneliness since the pandemic? Whether that was when you were in a relationship or not, like, is there anything?
Even still, like, I think that Neil works a ton. I think the majority of my time is spent alone. And there will be moments where I'm like, I should get out and I will say this. Okay, if I'm at home and I'm like, I don't force myself to go out, then I'm super comfy at home. But even times where I've forced myself to even just leave my house and take a drive and it's like a beautiful day, I'm like, I should do this more often.
I know, the touching grass sensation where you're like, wow, it's so beautiful out. Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. And you even have cats, right?
I do.
That, I will say, you can talk to your cats.
I do talk to my cats.
And I know that like that might sound ridiculous to people that are not pet owners at home. I think that helps tremendously.
Saved me during the pandemic incredibly because I didn't see anybody really. I think we had like a small bubble group. Like I would see you and a couple of other friends that I would see, but it was also very rare of that happening. But my cats and me, we had some intense conversations. We got in fights.
No, it's true though. That's like, a companionship too.
Absolutely. I have a friend that I would say is pretty lonely now, and like, but he verbalizes it. And I pushed him and said, like, you either need to take a class or you need to get a pet. And he's like, but that's so much work. I don't know if I want to dedicate them. Like, but like, I think that this would dramatically improve your life.
Yeah. And think about it. Think about maybe, is there anyone in your life that you can think of that is probably the least lonely person? Like, you think their sense of community is like through the roof. You feel like not necessarily where they're extroverted and they're almost hiding. Cause I think people can hide behind it where they're just like constantly going to social interaction and it's like at a surface level, but anyone that you feel like their community.
I would say Neil.
Yeah.
Because like he has the community of the gym, people that like look up to him, people that he trains with, people that he's around consistently and like they're like he like either helps them grow or they're growing together. Then he comes home to me and that's amazing for him.
Anyone else want to sign up to be Neil? No, truly. And do you think, speaking on that, do you think his quality of life is significantly better than that of maybe a friend that is experiencing loneliness?
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. And like, I think he's definitely drained at the end of the day because he does feel like he gives so much, but he loves it. And that's the difference too. Like he loves what he does. He loves communicating with the people. And I think even in that video we're referencing, she talks about, it's not just about having all of these people to hang out with. It's having the right people to hang out with. It's having the right community. It's having the people that like are positive and not draining on you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that's so lovely that you, first of all, I'm so glad that Neil has that. And I think that's great.
What about you? Do you like, who do you think?
Oof. That's a great question. I would honestly maybe say Vero, funny enough, which is, and I'm like, we love Vero. I'm not trying to bring her back into this all the time. Let's see if we can
bring her up on every episode because we love her so much.
True fan. But yeah, she's one of those people that I want to emulate. And I've told her this, like, and I really admire it. And I think she has such a fruitful family. Yeah, she's close to their family, similar to how I, really stress the importance of my family life. She also has her boyfriend that she's very close with, spends a lot of quality time with him. They now live together. And that's like living with your significant other is a game changer. And also a group of friends that she can really call on at any point. So I think that's one thing. And I think she's, from the outside looking in, she seems to have a very great quality of life. Yeah. And one thing that she does that I feel like I do as well that's really helped this last year is group fitness classes. She does that all the time. And I feel like that's something that I've been doing consistently for the last year. And I will say, like, there's people in my Pilates class that I see all the time that I'm not like friends with, but it is a sense of community. It's like we're all getting tortured together. And I love my instructor. You know, I see the same instructors all the time, and you build a relationship with them. And even if it's not like someone that you go and hang out with or someone you go and get drinks with or what have you, I know that every Thursday night I'm going to this person's class and I love that class and it's going to kick my ass. And it's a sweet, like my instructor the other day when I came into class was like, I always love having you in class. And I was like, I will sob. Like, and it's just one of those things. She didn't have to say that. And it's because we've built this relationship where every time I'm like, hey, how's it going? I compliment her on her like teaching which she always does great. If it's an amazing class that kicked my ass, I'm like, you did that. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. I'm going to be feeling that for 3 days. And I think that really helps. That's another sense of community. So I've noticed that with Vero too. So
I love that.
I would say her.
I do have a question for you. Yeah. So all people in our age category, we went into the pandemic with the experience of pre-pandemic, and we can clearly compare those. I guess my concern would more so be for the younger people
100%.
that were in their formative years that went into that. And so much of how they were shaped was in this seclusion. And how does that shape our future in that generation?
Truly, it's terrifying to me. Yeah. I'm really worried about the younger generation. And I know that all the generations are, when we're passing the baton, right, of like youth to the next, generation, we're always like, good luck, and sometimes I get annoyed by that because I'm like, why can't we just help each other out? Like, instead of just being like, we had a shitty time, I hope you don't have a shitty time, because I feel like that's usually how it is. And then the hatred of like the younger generations, and there's usually like a rivalry of some sort, which is so unfortunate. But I will say, not even Gen Z, which is right below me, I'm like the cusp year, but after that, I think that's Alpha. I don't know do you know? Alpha. Yeah, Alpha. The generation after that, that's the kids that I'm seeing that are auditioning for the college I work for. Yeah. And that is something, one of the questions when I'm interviewing them and conducting my like assessment of if they're a good applicant for our school, they talk to us about something that they went through that was really hard. And a lot of the time they're talking about the pandemic during middle school, high school for them. And they're talking about how rough it was, not only learning from home. Because a lot of people, you have to think about like, what about the home life of a lot of those kids too? Yeah. Like that's another TED Talk we could get into. But sometimes school was their only escape. Yeah. Sometimes school, even if think about school in general is a community. Yeah, whether you have a huge friend group or not. It's like a city in itself. Like there's so much that goes on within it. Yeah. You're at least going 5 days a week and interacting with 20 plus people in your day. Yeah. Like whether that's, friends, like I said, or it's your teachers, you're sitting in a class with at least 30 others probably most of the time. And that is a sense of community, even if it's not necessarily a closeness. It absolutely is. And I worry, to answer your question. I don't have the answer, but I really strongly worry and get nervous for not only how they're going to be able to socialize moving forward. I think this stuff that we're learning, like you said, the people that were exposed to the prior and like had a BC. Normal BC before COVID. Like having a normal adult life before then and now having it after. I can't even imagine.
Well, even having a normal childhood. Like I can't imagine like not having that high school memory of like having all of those friend get-togethers or graduation or prom. There's so many like missed moments that I hope that they're able to go back to that and even though it's like something that they missed, essentially now make up for that time and really like force, like you said, the community or like just force yourself to get outside and like recreate like missed opportunities that were taken from them.
Yeah, it's a momentous occasions that they're not having anymore or they're having like a diluted version where it's like do the car drive of like around the block saying that you graduated. And I'm like,
oh, I forgot about that.
That's so sad. Yeah. People coming to people's door during the pandemic, during their birthdays, like a sweet 16 and people would be like, and it's so lovely that they did that. Yeah. But it's tragic.
How many years are we removed now from the end of the pandemic?
Well, I mean,
I mean,
I feel like when do they count the end of the pandemic, right? It started
when did the restrictions stop? It's been years though, right?
Yeah, well, it originally started in March of 2020 as far as the restriction goes for America. And in the States, obviously, we're kind of doing their own thing. But after that, I mean, I would say after we had the vaccines, we started lifting mandates, mask mandates, things like that. That was 2021.
Wow.
So
yeah,
and it was never gone. You know, it's not gone. It won't be gone. But as far as that, like mask mandates and things like
they lasted
traveling,
for a long time. Yeah,
I was able to travel out of country to Spain in 2021, summer of 2021. So like late,
but then we
like
had
August.
like openings and then shutdowns again, like all of that. I guess like my thought is like that was maybe a year to two that we dealt with that, and we're still dealing with the repercussions of that. And not to say that like this is par for par, but it just shows you how like a traumatic experience can really shape like life moving forward. And it's not like, oh, we're done, so we're healed now. Like there's so much of healing that has to go into any kind of like experience in that nature.
Oh, totally. Yeah. None of us are healed. I don't think I know any individual that like you bring up COVID and they're like, yeah, I was walking the park, you know, like
I loved it.
Yeah.
There's parts I loved. Traffic was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there were certain, and it's sad to say that with so many lives lost and things like that. But it really was so tragic. But I understand that like people, we had to feel like we had to take some wins from it to like function. Yeah. So people were like, well, I can make sourdough now, you know, and you're like, awesome.
And think about how many activities people like picked up on and excelled at during that are singular activities like knitting or cooking or working out, like
gardening. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like I think like that 60%, what's that first? It's 60% feel like they haven't gone back to pre-pandemic.
60% have not returned to pre-pandemic activities.
Like, do you relate that to your life? What are some things that you feel like you haven't returned to, or you feel like maybe you don't have as much of a
want to do?
Yeah. Or even like a pressure to do. Maybe you felt like an outside pressure of like, I need to be going out once a week.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've always been a social person, but I've always been an introvert extrovert. Like if I'm out with people, I can enjoy my time, but the moment I get home, I'm like decompress. like I have to like readjust, and I have to like allow my time to like kind of like reinvigorate myself.
Yeah.
I think that I ignored or didn't recognize that about myself for my entire life, and but I just like I functioned in a social manner. Whereas like when that completely shut down, as much as I hated being home all the time and like not being able to connect with friends, I think I did become very comfortable with being alone. I lived alone. I had the cats, but like I became very comfortable and it felt safer because it's not only the fact of like health issues, but it's just like people can feel unsafe sometimes. And so I think I think that was also probably accompanied with the fact of like, that was during the time of the end of my like toxic relationship. And so I think that accompanied all together. I was like, okay, I feel safer by myself. Nobody's going to hurt me. I can't like, I'm not wording this correctly, but it felt safer just beyond health issues.
Yeah. No, I think you're wording it perfectly. I think you're feeling like you're not exposing yourself to danger as much anymore, whether that be like physical, emotional, mental, with other people.
Yeah, totally.
And that's so fair. Holy shit. I think a lot of us feel that way, whether we talk about it or not. Like, it is so scary. Like, also dating. Oh, there's so many TED Talks. But even now, I'm someone that I really do enjoy dating, and like in the theory, I'm like, I really don't. Like, I don't. I'm like, am I trying to like? I feel like what is it called? Like Stockholm syndrome, where I'm just trying to like convince myself that I like dating.
This is fine.
Everything's fine. I'll fall in love with the beast that's captured me. Yeah. So it's interesting because that is a fear that comes up through dating, and I think that's why now, because people during the pandemic couldn't really date. And then, or if they did, they were doing it virtually or, you know, or there was apps and that's where I feel like apps were already popular, but they gained a lot more popularity. I feel like after I would be intrigued to look into that and see what like the user, what the statistics are there. But I think now so many people don't like go out for, even if you match with someone, you're not even going out for a drink after, like they're just doing it for like a quick, vapid connection to,
it's almost like an ego boost, I feel like.
Yeah, validate themselves. To just be like, oh, I still got it. I could pull this person. Right. I could go out with this girl. I could hang out with this guy. He's like hanging on every word that I'm saying. And I think that's where ghosting has really come into, you know, play. I mean,
that'd be also another good statistic I'd like to see. Like, has ghosting increased because people are less likely or more fearful to actually take that step or have that conversation?
Ooh. I think, I think it would be, right? Like theoretically. And I also think about it this way. A lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, I feel like a lot of people don't want to ghost. They get to the wire of like having to cancel, having to tell the hard feelings, right? They're not going into it, I feel like a lot of the time being like, everything's good, I can just ghost them at the end. Yeah. I think a lot of people are going in trying in their capacity, their mental capacity that they have to date someone. And then it gets too hard, it gets too scary, it gets too insert word here. And because they're so petrified by those emotions and having to deliver that kind of news, then they pull back and they don't do it. Yeah. And so I would almost correlate that of like, they're afraid of getting their feelings hurt or hurting someone else's feelings, being in a horrible situation with someone after we're like doing this trauma, like rebuilding all the time. We're trying to just like soothe ourselves pretty much because we're not healed. So they go as far as they can, and then they just are petrified. So it's not an intentional ghosting, but they obviously ghost. Yeah. No, but it's true. And even that, like the activities, are there any activities that you feel like you don't do anymore? What was the statistic? I think it was like 35%.
35%, yeah.
That's crazy. That's a big...
No, 35% say people say socializing is less important.
Oh, okay. Let's get into that. Because that's crazy to me.
I mean, not
I
so
get
much
it.
to me.
I get it. But I mean, like in theory, it's crazy to me that we've all as a
you know
group.
What I would actually correlate that stat with is people having financial issues. And so like they're either that percentage is saying like, I don't need to socialize because I need to save money, or I don't need to socialize because I need to work harder and get this and da-da-da-da. Like I feel like a lot of my even social interactions are all related to work. Like you're one of my best friends, and a lot of our socialization is us talking about the podcast and like how to expand it or like what topics we want to cover. And like even the other day we finally like had a dinner where we were just connecting, we were like, and like
not talking about
I hadn't even realized how far we got away from just like having our friendship moments because we're always talking about this. And then a couple of my other good friends, like they're my producing partners, and anytime we're together, it's always when we're in production, we're just talking about work. Like I would say a good 80% of my social, maybe 90% of my social interactions are all related to things I'm working on.
Totally. And think about it. I mean, take us, for example. I don't know. I don't want to speak on your production. Were you guys friends you guys started working together professionally before becoming friends?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Okay. Because it was the opposite with us. Yeah. We were
we started working together first.
That's so true.
Yeah.
But then we were like, never mind, we're not working. not like we didn't like working together. We were just done with the project, or we'd put the project down because we're not done with it. Yeah. But that's so interesting. You're so right. I literally wiped that from my memory, even though we talk about that so openly. But it's because I've viewed you as a friend more than a colleague ever. Yeah. And then obviously we're best friends, but now you're right. Now we've chosen to work together, and now the majority of our conversations are over this,
which we love. We love this.
Of course, it's a passion project.
It's such a passion for us. But then it does encompass our social time together. Yeah,
and we have to put the friend hat on, so to speak, and just be like,
Yeah, which I think we did the other night, anymore. Which I thought like was so good for us because I hadn't even noticed it. And then when we actually were sitting down having dinner and we're just talking about each other and like personal lives as opposed to our passion project, like I feel like you have to kind of remind yourself and force yourself. And it's like even connecting with friends, like in that same video, it talks about how if you hadn't worked out in a while, it feels very arduous to be like, oh, I have to do this. And it feels like but then as soon as you do, and I find that in myself too, like sometimes I'm like, I don't want to work out. But then as soon as I do, I'm like, I could do another workout. I could go running now. Like I could do this. I think it's whatever like cycle you put yourself into, you kind of keep in that cycle.
I 100% agree. Yeah. And think about it this way, the same with socializing for fun, right? So to speak, instead of for a purpose, right? For an end goal of being like, I need to talk about the topics this week or whatever. Yeah. It's interesting to me that working out is similar because you're like, yeah, I need to get in shape, but I don't want to do it. But as soon as you experience the positive reinforcement or the positive
outcomes of
of your work or the of putting that time aside for that specific thing, then you are not only more inclined to be like, oh, I can do this, I can fit it in my schedule, but you're inspired to do it more. Absolutely. You're inspired to find the time because you're like, that was worth the price of admission twice times or like, Absolutely, and you're going, okay, well, I really, really appreciate time with Ruth where it's just us getting dinner and debriefing. And that's a debrief is such an interesting, but I feel like I use that with all of my friends. I'm like, we need to debrief. I'm like, and it's true. I think that's a lot of, especially womanhood. I think it is just like, what's going on? Oh my God. How's this person? Oh my God. How's your cousin? Oh my God. You're just like,
it's so true.
You like bring back all these conversations that you've had and just keep bringing them back to like, get new resolutions and then you have new things that are coming up on your plate that you're like, oh my God, how's that going? You know,
it's kind of like how they say parents need to be because like so much when you become a parent, like your focus is your child.
Yeah.
And so if you only focus on the child and then the child goes off to college in 18 years, then what happens to the relationship? And they tell parents all the time, like you have to still date each other. You have to still do this. Like, it's probably the same in friendship when you're working together to kind of like, yes, this is our baby, but we also have to maintain this. And it's probably the same in relationships too, because I know so many people that work with their partners too in that capacity. And so even if you don't have children or you do, and then you're kind of like double like managing all of that, but I'm getting off topic.
No. I think that's completely on topic because I think you're right. You have to delegate time for just you two and then delegate time for you and the baby. And obviously with something like a child, it's not like you're like, I'm done today with the child.
Go to bed.
Like we can do with the podcast, theoretically we can go like, not more words, any more words about femtalol today, even though we've never done that. We love talking about it.
Because we'll have a conversation and then it's like, oh, wait, we should do it.
It literally, I know the other day when we were out and I was like, oh my God, we should cover that on the podcast. I was like, shut the fuck up.
No, I think it's good. But then,
but we need to, you have to delegate the time. That's just for you. And like just refilling the cup, so to speak.
Absolutely.
I have a question for you. Yes. Because I'm single, I can't really relate to this, but
I don't think our audience is.
Everyone's like, what? Yeah, sorry guys. Shatter the mystery. Everyone's like, shut the fuck up. Cool. Anyway, what I was going to say is, how do you feel? You can still experience loneliness in a relationship. And like you said, not that you inherently feel it, but you're saying you have a lot of quote unquote alone time, even in a relationship with Neil, because your schedules sometimes completely contradict each other and or like are in conflict. And then sometimes he's working hours that you're more working from home. So you're by yourself at home. Do you feel like there is an innate sense of like, but I'm not lonely as a whole because I'm in a partnership with someone?
No, I definitely don't. We actually, it's funny enough, I had a conversation about this last night.
Oh, really?
Because we went out for like with his coworkers, it's like a big group event. And then a couple of other people were going to go play pool. And I was like, let's go play one game. And he was like, okay. And then, I could see he was really tired. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, are you really tired? He's like, yeah, I just like want to go home. I'm like, okay, let's go home. But then as we're in the car ride home, I'm like, I'm getting angry because I'm thinking, I'm like, man, we never do anything. Like, and we're not able to be spontaneous and we're not this. And so we had a conversation where I was like, I know our life isn't always going to be like this, but like right now, like a lot of the time I'm alone.
Yeah.
And he's always really good about these. He's like, okay, next time, don't even give me the option. Like if you want to, he's like, if I say yes,
Smart.
we're going. And I was like, okay. But like, I struggle with that even in our own relationship because I value our time together so much. But I also know he works so hard, such long hours. So I need him to sleep because I want him rested. And so when he is home and we're in our comfort zone, we both tend to just be relaxing and falling asleep and like and not having like that dedicated quality time together.
Even if you're spending time with each other.
Exactly. And so then that leans into me feeling like sometimes where I'm like, okay, so I need to figure this out and I need to do this. And like, I'm going to have like this span of 10 hours every day when he's at work and I'm at home. So like it can still feel like a feeling of like I'm alone, but I'm not alone because obviously I know like if I need him, he's there for me. Yeah. And so like, I have that comfort of knowing like I have a partner.
Of course.
But I'm physically alone the majority of the time.
And that's fair. Yeah. I think a lot of people in relationships, no matter your gender or your sexuality, feel that at times, you know? And that's one thing when I was reading the comments of this video, so many people were like, I still feel alone, even in a relationship, or I still feel alone. And I think loneliness is really an epidemic at this point. Yeah. And I think it really can isolate people. And similar to if we're making the analogy of like working out and not working out, right? I think the more you isolate yourself or the more you feel loneliness, and if you're not able to express yourself with your partner like that, or even your friends or something like that.
Well, and that's such a huge part too. I think that if he hadn't pushed me and said like, what's going on? Like, what are you feeling? Like, I think that's where it could feel more lonely. If I felt that way and I felt like upset or I felt like I wasn't like getting parts of the relationship that I desired and he didn't, and then I held it in and then he didn't question me and then we just kept going on with our day. I think that's where that solitude is in a relationship where you can feel alone even in company of somebody else.
Totally. And it's devastating that like that's it. It's not rare.
Yeah. That's the sad truth. Yeah.
It's not rare. Yeah. And I would say like, not that we've ever been mothers, but like there's that. Like I get worried about my sister-in-law, you know, that she's a new mother and she just moved to a different country and stuff like that. And she is so good about like community and she's really well connected in Spain and whatnot. And she has so many groups of friends and she's close obviously with my brother and they do take time to spend. But like there's also loneliness of being a mother. Like I think about my mom. I'm like, I can't imagine how lonely my mom probably felt with how crazy my dad worked, like the hours similar to Neil's schedule, but with 3 kids. And like, of course your kids are there. So there's like bodies present, but they're not necessarily, you're completely responsible for how their, you know, their happiness, their health, everything like that. So it's interesting. And I think about that because I reflect a lot of the time. I would say loneliness is not something I feel quite often, but I will say the way I experience it the most or the heaviest is relationships. Well, like romantic relationships. When I'm single, that's where I'm like, oh damn, like I could be going to the grocery store with someone right now. You know, it's like things like mundane activities that I love doing while I'm in a relationship with someone, and now I'm doing them by myself. And even though I don't feel like I'm at a loss for doing them by myself, I do feel like it would be a gain to do it with someone else. And that's where I'm like, oh, and that's where I get hung up on when I'm like, oh, I don't need to be in a relationship and I truly believe that. And I don't, but I'm like,
but I get that feeling too. Like
there's a desire there.
It's the desire of the thought of like, if I had that person, how much funner would this be?
Yeah.
Like how much does that excitement add to like the mundane? Cause like I agree with you. I love running errands with Neil. Like it's one of my favorite things to do with him. It is because I think that's also the marker of a healthy, calm relationship, right? When you enjoy those activities together, I think what you're craving more than even a partner is more so like that healthy partner.
Totally.
And that's where it's like, you know, healthy is like signified by that. And that's what you're wanting.
And I've been lucky enough to experience it in the past, like living with a significant other and having other significant others where The date nights were great. I'm not saying anything about like, those were for nothing. Take me on a date, okay? But the thing that I loved the most was like the Saturday nights where we went out with friends and then we were like, do you want to get the fuck out of here? And then you go home and you watch a movie or you make popcorn because you guys love popcorn, or you do something that's like a you thing and you do it together and you could still have your community. You're still seeing your parents in the morning or whatever, you know, but you get to have that, not alone time, but that, intimate time with someone else.
I will say, like, last night after we had that conversation in the car and we got home, we laid in bed for probably a good hour and just talked to each other with our heads on the pillow, like just like talking
so what
and
do you
chatting.
think?
But it was such a, it felt good. It felt very fulfilling. And I think it is like, it's not having to go somewhere or having to be, it's like, it is coming back to like being around the right people. And because I've had times like that with you too, where we're sitting there and we're sitting on the couch and we just have like a really great conversation and it just feels good.
Yeah. We're really lucky for that. I definitely like all of my friends, and all of my friends know this about me, which I'm like, I'm sorry guys, but I'm glad. I think it's a good quality in the long run. Is like a lot of my friends are like, if I can't reach you, you're with someone. Yeah. Because I'm not on my phone a lot.
So true.
I'm like,
because you're really good at texting back too.
Yes.
If you take a span, like I'm like, oh,
she must be with someone.
She's with somebody.
I know. Poor Noah.
That.
I know.
No,
I know.
that.
It's true. It's like when I'm with my people, I try to put it, and obviously I'm
You're
not
very
perfect.
Present.
I'm not.
No, you are.
No, no, God no. But I'm a millennial still, where we'll
chat.
And I have a work phone too, so it's like
am I a
sometimes.
Millennial? What am I?
Yeah, you're a millennial. Yeah. So it's one of those things where we have grown accustomed now to having our phones always nearby, but that is something that I do appreciate about my friendships, that like it's usually by the way, like you will not hear from me subsequently if I'm not with you, you know.
True. But then I'll get a long voice memo afterwards like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Not the voice memo drag. It's true, dude. My poor friends, they're like 7 minutes long. I'm like, hey, like not me fucking up this. No, it's true. I will be like that. I'm like, hello. So I'm actually at Trader Joe's right now. And so did you know they have this new product? And people are like, Madison, what are you trying to talk to me about? It could be a minute. And
I love it.
And it's always 7 minutes.
I love it.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that the friends in here appreciate it. Actually, I don't get complaints from my friends. I'm very lucky. But it is something to say. I think I've experienced that with you, where we, like you said, we just are sitting with each other and like crunching on a topic for like 2 hours. And we're like, yeah, dude. And then we like wake up, we're like, oh wow, it's 11, you know? But like, think about that. Even there's so many relationships that you hear of, and it kills me. I've seen it. I've seen relationships where they're on their phones all the time. And that's where they're like,
especially at restaurants.
No. You just triggered me. You just triggered me.
I know.
Continue. I have a story, but go ahead.
Oh, wait.
Oh, no. First of all, Sweet Green, baby, I love you so much. Sweet Green, if you want to sponsor us, I love you. I go there all the time. Okay, sidebar. I was at a Sweet Green the other day. Yeah. Came from Pilates class, went to Sweet Green, my usual thing.
Girlie's doing girly thing.
And can't wait to see that face. And I was in line, and there was a couple. Man, fully on his phone, volume up, watching a video. His wife, girlfriend, significant other is ordering for both of them. Already, I was like, oh God. Like, she's like, baby, do you want? And he's just, she finally gets to the like counter, right? Because they've ordered, but he's just like trudging behind at us.
Literally clenching my jaw on
I
my
was
lap,
literally,
like,
I almost said something. I almost went up to her after. Okay, so she's checking out. She's like, baby, do you want anything to drink? And he's like, doesn't answer her because he's watching a fucking video like this.
Oh my God.
And she goes, do you want anything? And he goes, what? And she's like, do you want anything to drink? And then he walks up. He's like, yeah, I guess I'll get a sparkling water or whatever. I'm like, already so, like, the taste in my mouth was so rancid that I was like, I can't believe someone would interact with their partner like this. Yeah. And also in public too. It's like, why are you watching a video out loud anyway
Yeah.
in public? Like, there's a special place in hell for people like that, but that's another conversation. And then they sit down and all the stuff, right? They like get their things done and they're eating at Sweet Green, which is already kind of weird, but I was like, okay, you're eating here. Cool.
Right.
Sit. She's setting up the whole thing. He puts his phone down. I'm like, oh, thank God he's not going to watch his video anymore. Mm-hmm. And without making eye contact, he goes like this. She puts hand sanitizer in his hand. He wipes it, starts the video, props it up, and is eating.
Asshole.
I know.
Oh my God.
And was eating his salad, and she's just eating in silence with her partner.
Angel baby, if you are watching this video, please don't
Get the fuck out of that relationship.
Wow.
I know. That's why I almost went up to her. And first of all, I was like, do I say something to him? But I'm not very confrontational. But I was like, if someone's really rude, I would maybe say something for respect purpose. I'd be like, can you please, you know? But I was like, no, because you're going to yell at him. And I was like, don't do that. And I'm not a yeller. So, you know, like that was like at a very high level of, low level of tolerance, high level of anger.
Yeah.
And when I saw her just eating by herself and her like doing, and it wasn't like, I didn't get the impression that he was incapable of having a conversation. Like I didn't get the impression that there might be like some neurodivergence or something like that, where he might not have been at like socially able to engage in that, to that depth. It was interesting. I was just like, he's ignoring his partner, like blatantly. And I wanted to so badly go up to her and be like, I don't know what he's giving you. I don't know why you're staying.
Yeah.
You deserve better.
Yeah.
This is a fucking Sweet Green.
Include her. Like she's sitting there with you. She's ordering your food for you. She's putting hand sanitizer. Like let that man do. He could put it on himself. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you're not even engaging with her in the video. Like you guys can both watch a video together. You can talk about what you're watching. Like you're literally separating her from everything you're doing and you're making her cater to you.
Yeah. And even that, I'm like, don't fucking watch a video like
I mean,
in the middle of a public place.
I'm giving him some leniency. Like maybe it was for work. Maybe
and
it was
I thought about that too.
Yeah.
I was like, it wasn't. I don't think
it was porn.
I want to do an episode on porn. Like Jesus Christ. But it was something more like just a video he was wanting to ingest tonight. You know, it was one of those things. And it's very gracious of you to be like, you could just include her in the video. And I think, yes, in some relationships, they might actually enjoy doing that. And like, no shade or tea. If you want to do that in public, do it. I would promote maybe using headphones, but do you, baby?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so blatantly like not only ignoring her, not saying thank you, not being courteous, not giving her any attention. And I'm like, you don't necessarily like, maybe after years and years of being together, maybe you don't have.
I hope not even then.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say, what I'm about to say is not even true because I actually disagree with it, because I was going to say maybe you run out of things to talk about, or like you're starting to like grasp for straws of as far as like, what can we discuss? But I'm like, if you're in the right relationship with the right partner that cares and respects you, you're going to find stuff to talk about.
Absolutely.
You're going to find it. Even if
it's like stupid questions, like what's your favorite candy from like whatever that is, like you want to engage with the person that you love, right?
You would think.
But I see it so much. And maybe it's like, maybe it is a combination when we talk about loneliness of being by yourself, but then also the escapism in these where it's consistently like acceptable to be in your phone.
And you're getting the serotonin boost of like connectivity, right? You're connected to millions of people.
But you're not
via exactly. And I think that is another learned loneliness is like a lot of the times people can be at home for hours and hours and hours. You work from home, you do hours on Zoom, then you get off and you're like, I'm going to do a workout class on Peloton. So it's still a community, but you're doing it by yourself at home. And then you go into TikTok or YouTube and you're watching videos and it's your favorite influencer and they're doing a skincare routine and you feel connected to them even though they don't know you exist. That is, and you're choosing to pay attention to those people instead of the people right in front of you. Yeah. And I will say, if that man felt like he needed a different partner because of something that she had done, you know, and he just wasn't doing it, shame on him for so many reasons. But I'm like, you don't get to behave like that if you think that someone is not right for you. You have to cut them out, or you have to give some kind of, not like ultimatum, but you have to find some solution. You can't just treat another human being like that.
No.
Especially one that you claim to love.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, and I just, my heart hurts so much for that woman, where I was like maybe she loves him. Maybe she's I don't know why anyone would feel like they have to grow accustomed to that kind of behavior. It didn't seem like it was something like out of the ordinary.
It was just like this normal experience that she's now okay with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem too. Like I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and she was saying that her mother-in-law, she feels like doesn't get the best treatment from her father-in-law, and like from what I took it as, could be verbally abusive. And she's like, I don't know why she like puts up with it. I don't know why she doesn't stand up for herself. I'm like, they've been together for 30 plus years.
That's horrible.
And I told her too, I was like, when that happens, does she go quiet and disassociate? And she goes, oh yeah. Like now that you say,
now that you point it out.
I think that unfortunately when you become so accustomed and you also just want to protect yourself, like you disassociate and you just quietly go inside instead of being that girl being like, put down your phone. Yeah. Because like, who knows how he's acted in the past
when she has said it. That. If she has said it. Yeah. I completely agree. And it is sad. You know, obviously we're not promoting divorce here, but in some like, cases I am. But I'm like that in that scenario, I'm like, baby girl, you deserve better. Yeah. Even if you've been married for 30 plus years.
Absolutely.
You know, like that's
we have to remember we only have one life still, like regardless of how long you've been married, like you give yourself a time to like live in the best piece of life you can have.
Question. Yeah. Do you think that those people are afraid of divorcing or breaking up because of loneliness, which is funny because they're experiencing their own kind of loneliness? Not to give you the answer that I think it is.
A lot of people are in relationships out of fear of being alone. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people accept less than they should out of fear of being alone. And that I think that also in friendships too. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people feel like I have to maintain these relationships because either I've been friends with them for so long or I don't want to hurt their feelings, but they continually hurt yours. Or in a relationship, it's like, well, the evil that you know is better than the evil that you don't. Or like I'm like I think I got into this trope too, where it's like, I'm too old to meet somebody now. Like, I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just going to be alone. Like, because it was very much like just accepting your certain circumstances and then not fighting for anything better.
Yeah. Because you're worried that you wouldn't get anything better. It's like a scarcity mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know family members that have friends that I'm like, you're not friends with them. Yeah. Why are you friends? Yeah. Like, every time you bring them up, you do not like this person. You know, where I'm like, what? Yeah. You know, and same with relationships. You know, that's, and when we've talked about in the past where we'd like laughed about women being like, I hate my husband. Not funny, but like it was funny in the moment.
In the context of what we're,
That's another, it's like, why are you
with them?
Why are you succumbing to the fear? Yeah. And I think it is fear of loneliness.
Do you feel, here's a question. Yeah. Do you feel women are more fearful of loneliness or men?
Let's get into it. I think men. Hot take.
Expand.
I think men. Okay, so if we're bringing it back to the cab light theory, right? I think why I was like, I don't think it's not wrong. You know, like I think cab light theory, or like men deciding that they are done being alone and just sometimes getting into a relationship at the next beating heart that like is interesting enough.
You have a pulse.
Yeah. I think that's where I find men are more fearful of loneliness. I also would say men are more exposed to loneliness. I think it's easier for women to find relationships, community later in life, especially. Yeah. I think men, if you stick with a group of friends, like my brother has had the same group of friends since he was literally like 3. And like, that's so beautiful and it's so sweet. And like now that most of them are dads and they have other things that they can bond over. And that's not the only thing connecting them. They've been friends that entire time. But I feel like if men miss that boat where they don't have friends from grade school, middle school, high school that are like say they move out of state or something like that, and they're not able to maintain those friendships, I think it's harder to develop friendships for them, or maybe a sense of community if it's not work friends or something like that, colleagues.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I do think men are more fearful, and I don't know. I think how they deal with that is either getting into relationships that they're not 100% on. And don't get it twisted. I think women do this too.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to say like women never do that. Wrong.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it. But I will say, I think I see that more with men. And I will say I see more of a sadness with men as far as like they don't, I feel like I witness loneliness with men more than I witness it with women.
Yeah. I would agree with you. I feel like I witness it, and I feel sad for men because they don't have the ability that more women have to, like, women are so accepting of the conversation, of the airing of feelings, of digging into those feelings. Like, I feel like I know almost any woman I know, like, that's how she is. Like, I can go to anybody and we can have, like, at least the people I surround myself with, like, those deeper conversations. And I think it's probably a trait that is more regular for women. But I've talked to my guy friends and they're like, I don't have anybody I can go to. I don't have guys I can be like, I'm feeling this. And they be like, fuck up, bro, or whatever like that is, where it's just like, just deal with it and move forward. Whereas like, we'll like sit and have a conversation for hours. 100%. Like, let's dig into it. Where did this come from? Like, how did this ignite?
Rehash things that we've already hashed.
Yeah. And like, so I feel sad for men in that factor that they don't have as many outlets about that. And I think that can lead to a lot of like anger or loneliness. But I wouldn't say they're fearful of it because I don't think they know to be fearful of it.
It's maybe something they're accustomed to.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point.
I think women are fear-mongered into like not ending up alone. Don't be a spinster. Yeah. So I think women have the fear that they wear on that they wear on their sleeves a lot more and maybe talk about a lot more. But I think that men experience it more but don't know that feeling.
I actually agree with you. I think I'm changing my answer. Sorry, guys. I think you're right because I think men are more accustomed to it, and I think they're also just not taught to be as fearful of it. Like it's a man, a silver fox in his 60s that never was married. He's not.
It's totally fine.
He's not thought of any less than.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not looking at him going like, oh, yeah. Did you ever want to have kids?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like,
do you feel less fulfilled since you're not a father? No, no. Anyway, it's been great. I feel like we should really dig into this a little bit more in different like avenues. I do too. I'll wrap us up here and just say, like, if you are out there and you're experiencing loneliness, we know that first step is the hardest. Try to like give yourself a goal of going out once a week, but do it with the right people. Choose the right people that are going to bring joy to those outings, so then it doesn't feel so arduous when you are going out. Pick things that you're going to be excited about, or go to a class and build a community. If you don't have a community yet, just get yourself out there. Try to like force yourself into this new way of living and report back to us. Let us know how it goes. We're here for all of you guys. We want you to have a great life. We're so grateful you're here.
Let's talk about, instead of what we're grateful for, we're going to say women that inspire us. Yes. Do you want to start?
No. I feel like we're both going to say the same.
Yeah, I think we're both going to pick our moms.
Yeah.
I mean,
my mom's amazing. Mom, I know you watch. You're my number one fan. I love you so much. You did so much for us growing up. You came from Korea with nothing. You taught yourself English. You raised 3 girls on your own. You're a strong woman, and I'm so proud of you.
I'm proud of your mom. And makes the best food in the world.
We're very excited for you to visit. Madison's waiting for her food.
I'm napkin tucked in, fork and knife ready. Very excited, and I love your mom so much.
Yeah, she loves you so much. She asks about you every time I
talk
to her.
I think about her every day of my life, so I love her so much. I'm so inspired by my mom. Yeah. I would say I'm so grateful and inspired in Women's History Month. I reflect on the woman that my mom is, the woman that she was before, the woman that she continues to be as I see her being a grandma. So beautiful, and she inspires me every day. She's such a badass, and she's not only so supportive too. Like I've never had, I think, ever had a person in my corner as faithful as she is. And sometimes I'm like, Mom, chill.
Meg is a ride or die.
She really is. Sometimes she will like go far and be like, you deserve this. And I'm like, I don't deserve that.
She's right. I stand by Meg.
She's the best. I'm so thankful for her. And she's one of my best friends. So I love you, Mom.
Oh, well, thank you guys so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And we will see you next week on Femme Tell All.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.